My warmest greetings to everyone. I am Mrinalini Bhattarai and today I will be presenting a video presentation in the form of PPT for ENG316, which is women's writing. Today we will be exploring how caste and gender intersect in Indian feminist literature and why the literary voices of Dalit women represent one of the most significant yet overlooked traditions in South Asian writing. To begin with some context, Indian feminism, despite its many achievements, has long carried an internal tension. Mainstream feminist movements have largely centered the experiences of upper caste and middle class women, leaving Dalit women on the margins. These women face a dual burden: oppression based on their gender and oppression based on their caste, operating simultaneously, not separately. What makes this even more troubling is that Dalit women's literary voices have been excluded not just from dominant feminist spaces, but also from Dalit literary circles. This study attempts to address that critical gap. Moving on, some quote from Sharmila Rege. The scholar Sharmila Rege argued powerfully that Dalit women's experiences cannot simply be absorbed into either feminist discourse or caste discourse. Their reality is distinct and demands to be recognized and studied on its own terms. Moving on to theoretical frameworks. This study draws on three theoretical frameworks. The first is intersectionality, which was developed by Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989. This framework tells us that caste and gender do not operate as separate forces, they interact and combine to create a unique form of marginalization that is specific to Dalit women. The second is Ambedkarite feminism, rooted in the writings of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and expanded by later Dalit scholars. This perspective argues that the dismantling of caste is inseparable from the liberation of women. It also critiques upper caste feminism for failing to acknowledge caste hierarchies within its own spaces. The third is post-colonial feminist theory. Drawing from thinkers like Spivak, Mohanty and Rege, this lens examines how colonial rule and nationalist movements work to silence Dalit women and how their writing today is an act of reclaiming voice, identity, and agency. Let us now look at the brief historical timeline. The story begins with Savitribai Phule, who lived from 1831 to 1897. She was India's first female educator. Her poetry and activism challenged both caste norms and gender norms at the same time. She founded schools for Dalit girls at a time when such an act was considered deeply radical. In the 1920s and 40s, Ambedkar's writing drew a direct link between caste oppression and the subjugation of women, inspiring Dalit women to step into public and literary life. The Dalit literary movements of 1970s and 80s created new platforms for Dalit voices, though women largely remained on the sidelines within the movement too. Then in the 1990s and 2000s, a shift occurred. Writers like Bama, Baby Campbell and Urmila Pawar published landmark autobiographies marking a new and powerful era. And then, from the 2010s to the present, Dalit feminist writing has gained global recognition through translations and academic study. Turning now to the primary text at the heart of this study, Savitribai Phule's Kavya Phule, written in 1854, uses poetry as direct protest. It challenges Brahminical norms and frames the education of Dalit girls as a revolutionary necessary act. Baby Campbell's The Prison We Broke, published in 1986, is a raw autobiographical account of caste-based violence. It shows how oppression is not abstract, it is felt on the body, in the home, in daily life. Urmila Pawar's The Weave of My Life, written in 2003, is a deeply personal memoir that traces how caste shapes labor, identity, and political awareness in a Dalit woman's lived experience. Several strong themes emerge across these texts. First, double discrimination. Caste and gender are not two separate struggles for Dalit women, they are one lived reality. Second, writing as resistance. Literacy itself was denied to these women for centuries. To write, publish, and to be read is a deeply political act. Third, the body and domestic space as sites of control. Caste-based harm is often enacted on women's bodies and within their homes. These writers reclaim both through storytelling. Fourth, a critique of mainstream feminism. These texts boldly point out that upper caste feminist movements have at times reproduced the very hierarchies they claim to oppose. And fifth, self-representation. These writers assert their identity on their own terms, not as passive victims but as people naming injustice with clarity and purpose. To conclude, Dalit women's writing is a distinct and vital feminist literary tradition, one that predates and challenges mainstream Indian feminist thought. Literary analysis of these texts reveals structures of oppression that sociological data alone cannot be fully captured. My recommendations are: include Dalit women's texts in feminist academic syllabi, fund the translation of regional Dalit feminist literature, support further research into oral traditions and digital spaces, and most importantly, recognize Dalit women scholars as the primary authorities of this subject. Before I close, I want to briefly acknowledge the writers who have shaped this tradition. Savitribai Phule and her student Muktabai laid the earliest foundation. Baby Kamle, Urmila Pawar, and Bama gave us powerful, honest autobiographies. Poets like Hira Bansode, Meena Kandasamy, and Sukirta Rani brought passion and urgency to Dalit feminist verse, and scholars like Sharmila Rege and Gogo Shyamala gave this tradition a strong academic foundation. Thank you for watching. I hope this presentation has made clear why these voices are not just important to feminist studies, but to our understanding of literature, history, and justice as a whole.